Okay, everybody, we got the Marvel Snap patch notes for April 18th. I'm sure you've already seen these by now, but I do want to give sort of a live reaction and my comments to them as I go through them. Some parts I'll read a little bit, other parts I'll just kind of give summations. So let's get into this. This first section is just highlighting the weekly spotlight, which is when new cards come in. So they will show up in this location, and we'll show this in game what it looks like in a second. Similar, but slightly different, the Ultimate Variants location, they get their own dedicated spot in the store. And then the last spot in the token shop specifically is the series 4 and 5 cards. This will always feature a card that you do not own from the series 4 or 5, and it rotates every 8 hours. Series 5 cards will be added to this section once they leave the weekly spotlight. So if you don't get it right away when it's in the weekly spotlight, when it's a new card, it'll eventually drop off into here. And if you want to see what that's like, you go to your token section and there's the 3 spots. You can sort of rotate them around and see what you're going to get. Pretty cool, I have to admit. So there, you know, Jeff's here. I can't pin it. He's new. If I wanted to buy him, I don't have 6,000 tokens. Here's Hulk, the Ultimate Variant. If I wanted to buy that Hulk Ultimate Variant, there you go. It's a pretty sharp looking store. I still wish, you know, why not have one more of these for Series 3? Why not? They made some graphic changes to the game board. Pretty cool. I do like how this looks. This isn't my normal play setup, but I did want to show you what this looks like now. You can see some of the stuff above me. It looks very, very cool. I'm a big fan of how they did this. The next section they have here is specific to the card series drops. We've covered these before. Again, got a spreadsheet tracking those. So open up your reserves, your caches, all that sort of thing. We'll have a video on that separately in the next couple days. They have some pretty good general updates here that I'm a big fan of. The first one they've discussed before, where once you reach infinite, you will only match against other infinite rank players. A big thumbs up to that one. A way to showcase some artists. Anytime you tap on a card, more details from the shop or your collection. The card detail screen is now going to show the artist credits, the card series label, 3, 4, 5, the variant rarity label, if it's rare, super rare, or ultimate. I think that's all great. You can also inspect cards and flip them to check out the back of it. Show some additional 3D details, which I think is phenomenal. This next part I love because this is going to help with those Agatha bots, if they're really still out there, the people who would just get that season pass ranking high and get a lot of rewards out of it, which frankly isn't fair. After roughly 10 hours of gameplay in one day, players will stop earning season pass XP from gameplay for the remainder of the day. I love this. Frankly, if you're playing more than 10 hours a day, good for you, but I don't think you should be. And so this is really going to sort of attack the bots, which are automatically playing when people aren't actually focused or they're sleeping. So giant thumbs up to Second Dinner for this. Also, the collection track has been extended. I know my buddy Kraken Noel, I think he was right around 22,000, was about to run out. So I'm curious to see what it's gotten expanded to. Hopefully they just doubled it. They got some new audio sounds for Squirrel Girl, the location of Camp Lehigh, and some added VO support for Thai and Indonesia. Then the balance updates. So this paragraph is just talking about Shuri, how they feel like it's better, but they wanted to make some more updates. They talk about Lockjaw and Leech and how they want to be able to take that along with and without Thanos off the top. We're going to go through these card updates. The first one's one we've been discussing, I feel like, forever. And it's a change that exactly is what a lot of people talked about. It's Shuri. So you still got the same cost and power, but on reveal, if you play your next card here, double its power. So whatever your next card is, it's got to be at that location and it will double the power. I think this is good. It forces you to put Shuri in a location probably with armor. And so that way it's armor, Shuri, a big card, and you've got to have either Cosmo or a Taskmaster somewhere else. So I do think this is going to help with that Shuri meta and bring her down just a little bit. The specific dev notes they have here, I want to read these because I think it's important to understand their mentality. We considered a number of changes to Shuri, but they all tended to ruin her current decks. Some even theoretically risked making a new monster with different parts that's not a great risk to run when balancing a problematically strong card. The change we're making today may seem small and subtle, but we expect it to be impactful and retain the same flow of play for her existing decks. effects, which is a consistent goal in our balance philosophy. This nerf removes Cosmo's protective capability for her target, makes single card answers like Valkyrie easier to aim, and indirectly buffs lane control elements like Professor X. We're taking a risk here in that this nerf could leave Shuri still a strength outlier. If so, we'll react quickly. My initial take on this is it's a good change. I think she'll still be strong, but I think she should be reasonably strong. I think she can have her own sort of archetype with some of these other strong cards. I think it's a good move. I hope, I mean, maybe there's certain things that people will find that it's still the same, but I just think my first look at this is it's a good change. Leech. Didn't want them to change Leech, but they did. Same cost and power, but now the new ability is at the start of a turn 6, remove all abilities from cards in your opponent's hand. So what this means is if you play it any time before turn 6, it's not going to do anything. It's just before turn 6. So whatever they've got left in their hand, that way it sort of hurts those cards. Encourages people to get those cards out before that, which really was the purpose of what they were talking about with a Valve release type card. They didn't want a bunch of people to sit on a bunch of cards to play them all on turn 6. Now this doesn't necessarily let you do it. There are specific comments. It's never been our goal for Leech to be a heavily played card, and we understand that's been a frustration lately. When it's happening, it usually means a finisher is generically strong against pure power, like Leech Leader, and or a deck can play Leech earlier than turn 5 too often, like Lockjaw Thanos. We've tried in the past to weaken the stronger cards in those decks, but it's been a balance and design obstacle. Thus, we've decided to remove the early Leech from the equation. Leech is designed to counter some powerful endgame cards and combinations from a unique angle without any setup, which is important to have around in the event these decks begin to outperform. This change should let him fulfill that role when necessary without ever making him a foundational piece of the metagame. So I think that's an interesting concept. I think he can still be decent. The question becomes, is he worth a 5 cost card to play? It's nice to have him in the deck, but if you're going to play him on 5, you really need to make sure your opponent's planning on dropping a whole bunch of cards on 6 that they need the abilities for. Because if not, this guy's gonna kind of just disappear in the sunset. I think he's still great for Sarah type cards. He's gonna, the hit monkey situation, you want to hurt Valkyrie, anything like that, you're obviously gonna still see Leech being in play. Lockjaw change, I was not expecting this one. So again, same cost and power. After you play a card here, swap it with another card in your deck, which is the exact same as it was before. But the added part is once per turn. So you can't drop a whole bunch of cards on Lockjaw and get like a number of different other ones. So I'm very curious to see how this affects Thanos decks, because you'd see a bunch of people lay a number of stones on Lockjaw on the same turn. This is really going to hurt that. So let's see what their comments are. Lockjaw is a fun and exciting card, but each trigger of this good boy basically draws a card and generates up to 6 energy at random. That's a lot of variance to have in multiple competitive decks. As we add cards, new and improved ways to sidestep Lockjaw's risks will also become available. Since we believe the most powerful and frustrating use of Lockjaw is triggering him multiple times in a turn, often with a snap along the way, we're changing that. Limiting Lockjaw to 1 swap each turn forces the player to develop their board without letting them sprint ahead or spring a late surprise. This will make Lockjaw simpler to play against and less potential in decks, incidentally playing lots of cheap cards like Thanos. So there you have it. I mean, that is a massive, massive change. I've really got to think about this and see how this affects the meta and how it's going to play against other decks. I mean, Lockjaw Thanos, I mean, do you even combine those at this point? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. America Chavez. So this is an interesting change again. Same power, same cost. The difference is starts on the bottom of your deck. Draw this on turn 6. Previously it was you always draw this card on turn 6 and not before. But it could be anywhere in your deck. So, you know, maybe Yondu could randomly hit it. You couldn't get it from Kit. But now they're guaranteeing it's at the bottom of the deck. Their comments are, previously, if you were about to draw America Chavez, you would just draw your next card instead. This means that over the course of the game, she's a lot more likely to be the top card of your deck. Thus far, this has been largely unimportant outside of Yondu, but it does restrict our ability to print cards that interact with the top of your deck, like say Howard the Duck or Iron Lad, which are coming soon. We expect this update to have little impact on America Chavez's functionality overall. I generally agree. I think this is more about other cards that they're playing with, like the ones I mentioned, that they're really going to be looking at top deck type situations, so they've just made it so that she's always on the bottom. Jubilee changes, was not expecting these. Again, same cost, same power. Add the top card of your deck to this location. So it's bringing whatever you have at the top to that location. This also is going to synergize with Howard the Duck, Iron Lad type situations, or maybe not Iron Lad, but Howard the Ducks. You're like, oh, I know what that card is. You know, I'm going to drop Jubilee with it as well, or whatever you might want to synergize there. Their comments are, some of our players may remember a time when Jubilee had this ability. Back then, Jubilee would often be a 4-10 as she'd pull America Chavez very consistently. We decided at that time to change Jubilee's effect instead of America Chavez, as the former was a much simpler change to communicate. However, we're looking to design cards that interact with the top of your deck in the future. So we're bringing this design back too. We expect this update to have little impact on Jubilee for the time being. Again, I think this is a future update thing that they're going to just make sure that things work okay. Leader. All right, what are we doing to Leader here? He was 6'7". They've now changed it to 6'2". On reveal, copy the enemy cards with the highest power played this turn, but on your side. Interesting. So instead of copying all cards your opponent played to this location right up here, but on your side, they're making it so copy the enemy cards with the highest power played this turn, but on your side. Leader is now becoming a really strong card again. So whatever the highest card someone's going to play, you can counter that. That is huge. I mean, so that Red Skull, double up Shuri stuff, like, okay, cool, you play that, I'm gonna play it on my side. Awesome. The developers' comments. We were clearly too harsh on Leader with his previous nerf, obviously, and we're dismayed that action became a go-to example for how ruinous a nerf can be, obviously. And that's what everybody did. They called it the Leader treatment. Our balanced philosophy is to preserve as much playability as we reasonably can when weakening cards, and we did not succeed here previously. Again, as I mentioned in my other video, they learn from their mistakes. I love that. They admit it, they know it, they change it, they try to learn and move on. With this change, we're aiming to bring his strength back up to a playable spot for a 6-cost card, but still avoid the oppressive impact his original form had. We had erred on the cautious side with his power for now, because some previous defenses against the original Leader, such as playing weaker cards before a stronger one, no longer apply. I think this is generally a great change. I could see him getting another point or two to his power, because, I mean, depending what people do, am I going to get leadered here? You know what? Let's just put a low-cost card here, and then that way they're not going to do anything strong on their end either. So those are the balance updates. I think all reasonable changes. I'm not mad at any of them. I'm curious to see how the Lockjaw thing plays out. I wonder how much that's going to hurt the Thanos deck. I think it's still a decent deck, but man, that really hits it hard. The next section is a bunch of bug fixes. There's nothing in here that really jumped out at me. They got rid of the infinite loop with Morph and Kang. The Series 3 token shop should now display properly when you've collected all Series 3. Talking about some tapping duplicate Kangs where a play is rewinding should no longer cause that card to disappear. A lot of the things in here are sort of visual effects. I didn't see anything in here that really jumped out at me that was sort of like oh, that's a big fix. Again, I think it's fine. If you want to go through here, just freeze the screen, read it. It's on Discord. I'm sure you're checking it out. I'm not going to go through each one of these. None of these really jumped out at me as something that was really monumental. Then they've got the series drop, and we've got a data mine for a whole bunch of new stuff coming, which I'll do a separate video on this. So if you want to check that out, please consider hammering down that like button. And we're pushing towards 1,000 subscribers. I'm doing a little blitz/subathon. So if you want to see that video, consider subscribing. Appreciate you guys making it this far. Let me know what your thoughts and comments are in the section below. There's a Discord link in the description below. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.